You are so receptive to your environment and you just implement things as they come to you. But Jeremy just told me that the real Etna erupted the second day you guys were there, so I need to know. Was the volcano part of the story in your head before, or did that become the sign of the story while you were shooting?
The volcano was there before, but in a really coincidental way, where like the origins of this movie formed at bars late at night, was like the theme within the movie as well. And we were at some bar hanging out with this guy named Oliver Hermanis, who's a filmmaker that Jeremy knew. And we were just updating each other on our lives, and I said I was living in Warsaw. And he said, I was trapped in Warsaw for a month once in 2010 because that volcano in Iceland erupted. And I lived in Iceland in 2010. So the coincidence of that meant like this is significant. I should use this in the movie. So when I'm having these initial conversations with the actors, with Charlie, I'm like, we're gonna make a movie in Warsaw. Somebody speaks Polish, somebody doesn't, and somehow the volcanoes are involved.
That was it? That was
the initial talk, and then like as we're kind of just bouncing things back and forth, there did blossom this idea of sort of magical realism. I was like, when there's something supernatural in a movie, I don't really want to make a movie about real life. The fun of movies is you get to play make-believe. So, and as I entered the movie, I very much was like, team magic, where it's like the volcanoes are real, these ladies are causing them. I did not Google volcanoes yet.
incredible. I love the myth of the volcano being so intrinsically connected to their energy together, as well as Rob's kind of myth of romance. And it's so touching because by the end you feel that, you know, the darkness has arrived and he has kind of been woken up from this dream, but you feel he's in a better place. I'm so curious as actors, what this experience was like and finding Rob for yourself.
Well, you know, the writing process is incredibly collaborative, and it like we've been saying this week, acting in something where you have wonderful writers, you know, making the character with you as you're shooting is this incredible sort of freeing experience where in a way it's like, oh, I'm responsible for 20% of my character to an extent. Like I contribute my portion of the group. So on one hand, it's a little scary because you don't have a text. You don't know where the character is going to go. You don't know what's going to happen. You can't plan for anything. And if you sort of meet that challenge, it forces you to be more present. And it's like back to acting 101 of like, I don't know what's happening tomorrow, what's shooting next, what's on Rob's journey. But if we just trust that we're here together and something will transpire in front of the camera that hopefully will be interesting and honest, and we'll just see what happens. So it's scary and kind of, you know, releasing at the same time.
It's one thing to improvise like that. It's nothing to do it in an accent.
Yeah. So we it wasn't necessarily improvisation. I mean, we would write the lines and be very specific about them, but it really was a thing of like, if I can at least get some, you know, version of what this guy sounds like that's believable, then we'll be in the right place.
Well, and there was a coincidence of that too, because tell them your accent worked and who your angle was.
Yeah, so doing the movie with Pete, you have no control over anything. You're kind of just like, what are we gonna do in prep? So Pete usually gives me a little like the acting challenge of like an accent for this one. If you're playing a British guy, cool. That's 6 weeks. I can go to my room and get ready to be a British guy. And I was studying this amazing actor, Russell Tovey, who I've loved for years. I've loved his accent. I was kind of like basing it a little bit just off him, just as I was kind of playing around. And then eventually Pete was like, so Charlie's from Essex, so we need you to do an Essex accent. I was like, oh no, I've been doing this other thing. And I looked up, where's Russell Tovey from? Essex. And I was like, so then I sort of arrived, and then just being around Charlie was where it really kind of locked in. I think the first couple of days I was doing it, and Pete was like, hey, you know, it's getting there. And then Charlie arrived, and I was like, oh no, we're here, it's happening. So that was cool.
I have to assume that Charlie has less time, just knowing her schedule, and you guys are all very busy people, but in terms of the workshopping process, I don't imagine there was tons of time to rehearse. I have a feeling you guys hit the ground running together. What was that like?
Yeah, we don't rehearse. There's texting with each other. We have maybe 2 Zoom calls beforehand where we're just sort of talking. I mean, just vibing each other out and talking loosely about what things that we've said that we already sort of like. Enough for me to make a half of an outline that just gives us what we know we're going to do those first few days. And then because of the writing process that we collectively do together, which is like the night before and the morning of writing what the dialogue is, like that becomes the rehearsal process where I will write a first draft of so everything just happens in the notes app on my phone. So I will write the first draft.
From Apple.
Yeah.
I'm on a 13 currently. So you just write it in the notes app, and I'll do a first draft, and I just text that to the group, and that becomes like it's collaborative. So they can edit it. Also, if I edit it, it updates live. So while we're sitting at dinner, while drinking wine, hanging out, have our phones out. We're talking through the scene. They are saying the lines, maybe saying the lines wrong, but better. I will immediately update it. They'll present ideas. What if I said something like this? What if the conversation went this way? Such that by the end of that meal, we will have our shooting script. It will be locked and will already have been filtered through the actors. They already understand why these characters are saying what they're saying. They will already have rehearsed it. And in the best case scenario, you are actually doing that in the location where you're going to shoot. So you also are already starting to like understand what the blocking is going to be. So it ultimately becomes really efficient.
I feel like this movie should have a "Don't try this at home" banner. You guys like that worked out really well here, but that wouldn't typically. Well, speaking of the technology, for a second, I'm just still blown away by how beautiful the film is. And I believe you shot it on a Canon 5D.
A hacked 5D,
Right.
Mark III.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Some nerds on the internet figured out how to unlock the raw recording capabilities of the Canon 5D Mark III. I've owned this camera since 2012. It is good.
One more Canon, we need.
It's the camera I've owned since 2012. It has a bunch of dead pixels, and my colorist is always a little bit annoyed by how many of those she has to fix. But it's just a camera, and it's good enough. And if it's good enough, it's also good.
It's so beautiful. Jeremy, can you speak a little bit about your contribution as producer, as writer, as actor? Were you always planning on playing Claude? How did that come to you?
Oh my God, you asked my favorite question. I was like, I don't want to be Claude. No, it truly, I love Pete so much. Pete and I met when he was editing my first documentary. I was in one of those really complicated situations where you have a really big movie for a really big studio. In this version, it was HBO. And everyone told me that a HBO documentary looked a certain way, even though I had pitched him that my documentary would look like all these documentaries in the 70s. And so then when we started making it, all the producers were like, what are you doing? That's not how you do it. You need to have people sitting down and doing talking heads. And I was like, I don't want that. And they're like, you gotta have it. So literally, and again, I love my producers, and so please don't phone this because they were really great. But they spent most of my budget doing things I didn't want to do. There's so much footage that just was bad. And then they hired this editor that I didn't really know and didn't really vibe with, who was also great, and I love her, and I love her and your contribution. But we made a documentary that I was like, I can't watch this. And they were also like, this doesn't feel like you at all. And I was like, I know. And that's because, again, you know what it's like making a movie when you aren't, the don't try this at home thing about making any of these things is don't try this at home if you don't already know that, when you are the director, everyone is supposed to be hanging out with your vision, right? And I felt like I had to be subservient to all these other people's visions before I really clocked in. It was no, a director has the vision. And Pete was the one that reminded me of that when he got hired on to be the second director. And I could almost cry saying this, but I also might be crying because of the Thai food I just had. But Pete really was no, let's make the movie you want to make. And I was like, oh, I want this thing to do like this. They said that wouldn't work. He's like, I think it could work. And so he said yes so often and reminded me that a movie could be playful and fun and alive. And as we were making it, I also realized we had the same brain. Right? It was if I said, oh, could that color be? He'd say blue. Before I even got it out. And it was we were really in sync in this really wild way. And he also was telling me a lot about these things he was doing with his movies, right? Where he wasn't asking permission, where there was no overlord. He was like playing pretend with his friends. And I was like, I think I want to do that. So we made one of those movies together. It was really fun. It was really live. I also came on as a producer because I was like, I think someone needs to help you a little bit. Like, I think you need like some hand. I won't tell you what to do, but I will like give a helping hand, much like you did for me. And then that went really well. We shot that movie upstate in New York with a bunch of friends. And we kept being like, well, what are we going to do next? And we were at a bar. Charlie XCX walked in. This is after we were talking about how he was living in Poland and he might want to do a movie in Poland somehow. He had met an actress named Lena at a film festival, and he's like, I think she could be in the movie. Charlie comes in. Charlie's like, I want to be in one of your movies. Like, there's like 10 minutes I'm missing from that story, but like, whatever, I'm talking too long. And then we knew that it was going to have Charlie and Lena, and they were going to be these girls that made earthquakes happen. But then we were like, Charlie should have a boyfriend, and Will is Pete's like surrogate in many ways. He's been in 3 of these movies. He's phenomenal. So I was like, so that's all set up. There doesn't need to be a black guy. So, you know any black people in Poland? My imagination didn't have them. So I was like, you're in the movie. And I was like, listen, let's say I'm in the movie, but I'll really just be there to help. And every day I told him I won't be in the movie. And that's why Claude doesn't come in until like 25 minutes into the movie. I'm like, no, someone needs to be working here. And he said, I think someone needs to breathe differently in this movie. And over those couple of days, I had seen black people in Warsaw. I had this year. In those 6 days, I started to think that if there was a black person, maybe he was an artist. Maybe he was someone who had tried it in Berlin and didn't pop, and tried it in Porto and didn't pop, tried it in Paris, and then was like, I think I'm gonna go to Warsaw, and popped, you know? And I felt like that was kind of funny. And that's how Claude is in the movie.
I love the line. I love the line to the voyeur. I love the line about like he wasn't thinking about where he lived. He just as long as he had a view. I love how he just said back in the tunnel. So good. And the instigator, like everything's going well until you mention this party. Also, like sitting there at the sushi restaurant, you can't help but wonder if it's a setup. It all just feels too perfect. But I'm fascinated by the use of the narration because I was curious, how much of that. You have these scenarios, you guys write together, you see the performance, now you're in the edit. How much of that narration was written in the edit based on what you guys had discovered?
The edit, the voiceover came very, very late. Edited the whole movie together, no narration, realized the movie's not good, realized it needs something. What's it need, what's gonna fix it? First, we tried a narration that was Charlie with Bethany, where she was reciting poetry she had written as a 16-year-old. So I got to write a bunch of poetry as a 16-year-old girl. She recorded that, we put that in, didn't feel right, took that out, movie's still not good.
Then it was an album, that's fine.
And then, like, I do a lot of things on these movies, but I don't do everything, and movies are good because of your support around you, and a big part of that is who gives you feedback, who you show the movie to, and like for them to care enough to try to help, to try to figure out the note that you need to hear. And so I was hanging out in Baltimore where one of my favorite people, Albert Burney, lives. I made a movie with him called Obex, and every time we get together, we're really just trying to play video games, but invariably what happens is we start working on one of our movies. So we got there and we're getting the Switch out, about to play, and he's like, how's it going in Erupcja? And I'm like, I don't know, it's not right, I'm missing something, and I'm kind of running out of energy, running out of time, but not sure if I can figure it out. And he's like, what if you did a voiceover thing like Jules and Jim? And I was like, what's the voiceover like in Jules and Jim? and we loaded up Criterion, pressed play on Jules and Jim, we watched the first minute, and I was like, oh, like that. And so I went over and sat down on my computer, and I opened up Google Translate. I typed the sentence, Nell inherited the flower shop from her mother. I pressed play on Polish Google Translate, and it said this line in Polish, and I thought, that sounds cool. I put that into the edit, I put some music underneath, and I'm like, this works. So the next 3 days, Albert and I just sat at the table and wrote all this narration. We submitted it to TIFF with Polish Google Translate voice, and that's what they programmed. Which was cool, and was the vibe. And then it was this journey to not use the computer, of course, to find a to find the correct voice for it. And the beautiful thing, the reason I want to share this is, so first we found this really cool Polish actor, and he did it really well, but it just didn't feel quite right. It was too much like a story time being told. And then we connected with the translator who works at the film festival that is what first introduced me to Poland, which is called the American Film Festival, and he did a recording, and again, just wasn't the right texture. And we're like, who else do we know that speaks Polish? And so our producer Luke
Lives in the house, everyone.
lives in the house. He is like, my friend is Polish and has a stepdad who lives in Poland. And we're like, can we get him to record it? He just records, this guy's not an actor, he's a stepdad. He records it on his phone. He just records it and sends it over. And I'm like, that is it, that's the voice. And so we get him to record all this narration. I put it in, I'm like, I love it, it's so cool. We show that to our Polish collaborators, and they're telling me how it reminds them of this thing called a lector, which is when they make dubs in Poland. It's not a bunch of different actors doing all the voices, it's just like one man who just dryly talks over the movie while you can still hear like the audio of the film underneath it. And I'm like, okay, this is amazing. That I'm like accidentally like connecting to the culture that they have. And so that is the movie. And then we go to Poland for the premiere, and I finally get to meet stepdad. And he comes up, and he's this lovely man. He's in his like 60s, and he's so sweet. And he says, "Thank you so much for like including me in the movie." And he tells me that 20 years ago he had a stroke, and he lost his ability to speak. And it's taken him all this time to get his voice back. And now he's the voice of a Charlie XCX.
He's like NYC is 1 million.
But when I heard that, I teared up, and I thought that's why we made this movie, for that guy.
But what a discovery. And she's thinking that this is the kind of thing that you could have thought from the beginning. Like, when you look at this movie, are you like, I could have sat down and written this movie? Or is it something that is inherently necessarily discovered?
I honestly don't think so. I think the process is the product. I think that's why this movie feels the way it does, for better or worse. Like this is what it is, because this is what happens when you bring this specific people together in, August of 2024 during Brad Summer. You know, like all these circumstances are contributing to the thing that we made. And that is what's so personally beautiful, I think, about it, is that like, it is proof of life. You know, this is not AI, this is like actual humans lived and connected and communicated and solved problems together, documented it in a fictional way, and now like get to share it with people.
I love that there's so little like social media tech in it. It's so refreshing. It just feels like you're in this alternate time. It's really nice.
I was just gonna add one thing about that. I think that if someone told Pete, you have to write a movie and Charlie XCX is gonna be in it, you're gonna be like, yeah, she's gonna be in everything. Fuck yeah. Like, we're gonna ride this train to the end. But because Charlie XCX was having the craziest summer of her life, she had promised us 2 weeks, because that's the process. Everyone stays for 2 weeks. And she was like, I'm gonna be there for 2 weeks, it's gonna be great. I will be making the remix album while I'm there, but it'll be chill. She literally hit send on the remix album like day 8. Like, it was crazy. But I think 4 days before we shot, she called us and she's like, hi babes, so I'm so sorry, but I just booked this Converse ad and I have to do it. So I have to leave 4 days early. And we were like, what? And we were like, how do we finish the movie? And because the process was about staying in the present, Pete, none of us were like, well, let's figure out what the ending should be. We were just like, let's just make the movie. And we literally didn't know how Charlie left the movie, or how Bethany left the movie, or why she left the movie, until dinner that night she was leaving. Right, we were at dinner drinking wine, we were like, so we need to figure out why you leave and what your last scene is. And we did it, and I think that like it became something way more honest about who Bethany was, what it means to like be a volcano that like leaves death and like new life in its wake. And I think that accident, that coincidence was only possible because we were living presently with the story. And any problem that happens on a pedo set becomes like a storytelling like opportunity, right? We didn't plan on it raining in the middle of our night scene, where we had a party in a studio that was so fucking hot. Like, you imagine how hot that scene. I don't think they have air conditioners. so hot. I don't know why they were eating the fried chicken. It was disgusting. Yeah, but we had to shut the doors because the rain was getting in, so it got hotter and hotter and hotter. But that rain ended up making one of the best scenes for Rob and taught us so much about how lovelorn he was.
Oh, if only every movie was made with such receptivity and openness to what is happening. We spent all the time in the movie trying to control everything and like white knuckling things and faking things. And I think what we've proven with this is like defying all expectations of what movies have to be, and even you know, the way a process should work, or the way a massive global phenomenon pop star should work and how it should be incorporated. I love that in the crowd scenes, it was obvious that because of the energy you guys were bringing, people weren't freaking out on the streets. If you had like 1,000 PAs and blockades, it would have created this whack energy that just wasn't there. And she's so incredible. She is also in this Greg Rocky movie that I am in, and watching her openness is so inspiring. She just is like, she had a show here in LA the day that she shot in that movie. She's like, all right, thanks, like off to work, and like going to forums. It's incredible. I mean, Will, do you like the experience of working with her? Is there anything you want to say about? Were you intimidated? How was the process?
I was intimidated. I'm always intimidated when I know I'm going to work with somebody great. And so I try to just like really just like empty all expectations. Just like there is no spoon. Just like there's nothing. We're just going to meet each other, and just like whoever we are as humans, we'll figure it out. So I think we all did a good job of just kind of being in the moment in that way. But she was incredibly sweet, you know, and she was like by day 4 or 5, she was like, "This is the longest I've ever been on a movie set." You know, it's like she had done music videos for 1, 2, 3 days. So that was really special. And she was so, like you said, open and generous. And there was a moment where I was talking about like acting choices and this and that. And she's like, when you say choices, what do you mean? Well, you know, everything you do is a choice, you know. And then I was like, but she was very open and just so comfortable with like saying, I don't know the answer, but let's figure it out, which is what you need to do a movie this way. Really any movie anyway, but it's particularly necessary in this kind of a process.
Do you guys always, when you work, do you always shoot in story order? It's incredible. I just made movies the first time I'd ever done that, and it's the first time anybody in the movie had ever done it, and we were like, whoa, this is making the movie a lot better.
It's better, it's easier, there's so much mental energy that has to be used when you start doing things out of order. You don't do it out of order, you get to put all that energy somewhere.
We make it so much harder for ourselves, starting to like a Rubik's Cube of like, okay, this should the ending first, and try to pretend we can emotionally make sense of this. But people think of it as like, it's impossible. There's all these expectations of what's possible, and you just routinely defy them. I'm curious if there are other things like that are sort of expected parts of the process of making movies that you're interested in kind of breaking those rules.
There's like technical things, like there's no boom on my set. We don't need it. Sorry, some guy. But generally, like I'm like, there's no rules. It's like a thing I really like say and believe. That and knowing that unlocks everything. Like you can enter a room to shoot a scene, and it'll be like an ugly room, and you're like, there's not a good wide, like, so don't shoot it. Don't do it. Don't shoot a shot that you don't want to put in your movie.
Is it treated? Have I heard you say that if the movie's not good, you just won't release it?
I say it, and I mean it. I tell the actors, if we don't make a movie, it's okay, as long as we feel like we had a good experience and that we've grown as humans. And I actually mean it.
He means that I don't. Guys, if it's not good, we won't release it. We're releasing it, Pete. I will say the thing that I think is fun, that was the funniest thing on our first movie we made together, where they kept me like, there's no crafting. There's no need for crafting. Like, if you're hungry, make a sandwich. And like, I was like, wait, but I totally, but who's making me the sandwich? You know? And like, I love a waiter. And he was like, no, we do it ourselves. Like, you're a grown man, you can make your own sandwich. And the minute he said that, I was like, oh wow, we have like made children of all actors for no reason. You know, like I had been, you know, because like I work on Italy in Paris, you guys. Like on 2 episodes of that show, they had me in Paris for 3 months. It's like it makes no sense, you know. And there's every type of crafty in Paris, and I was like, oh, they don't need to do that. Like we could just make a sandwich.
Yeah, and think of how many movies he could make with the crafty budget. On Emily in Paris. No, many years ago, Joe Swanberg made this movie, Love Drinking Buddies, and and it was like all of his movies, a process not totally just like Love Drown, and I find it so minimizing when people think to mumblecore, we won't even do it, but I was so liberated by that experience. It was absolutely the beginning of me taking myself seriously as a storyteller myself, because he gave the actors that kind of agency. But I remember we were shooting in a brewery and we couldn't afford water, but we could they let us drink the beer. So we just only hydrated the beer the whole time. And it's a great experience. But I just think that kind of experience for actors, how do you go make something else? It's so liberating to be trusted that much. And I'm curious, when you go do other things, are you
Honestly, the main difference when working on other things and working on a Pete movie, my experience is that I know that that no matter what the other project is, if it's not working, that on a normal movie, the director starts to pace around, starts to panic, and is trying to come up with things to say to me or the other actor to try and fix it and control it and get it back on track, and in a way that Pete kind of accepts what's happening and doesn't try. There was a couple times in working together, it might have been another one of the projects, but it wasn't working. It was hot. We were getting frustrated, and we're like, cool, we'll just take a 2-hour break. Everyone just drop what we're doing. We're just gonna go have food and look over there and talk about something else, and then cool, let's get back to set, and then we just stand over here and then start shooting again. So really just there's so much more trust in that no, we're gonna find something, we're not gonna move on. It's not like there's no one breathing down our neck about moving on, that we have to just come up with whatever and just get on with it. There's always it just always kind of coalesces and figures itself out in a way.
Pete, if someone was here's $100 million. Would you, and if I said you have to spend it on one movie, do you find it daunting, or are you excited by that prospect? What?
It sounds sad. There's so many better things we could do with $100 million than make a movie.
Yeah.
That's the crappy budget.
Think of all the parks we could update.
Reopen the ArcLight Theater.
And reopen the ArcLight Theater. I feel absolutely do that.
I generally I struggle to justify spending money on a movie. We want to have a really special experience together, playing make believe, but a lot of things, money doesn't need to be the way to solve any of these problems. I have a new project that I have figured out why this one would need money, and it's because I want to be rich. I'm joking. No, it's the creative idea. There is a reason if you want to do this idea correctly. It does need resources. But I'm trying to be very conscious of waste of its imprint on effect on the world. When we're shooting, if we're shooting in public on a sidewalk, there's a thing that happens a lot in movies where you have a PA stand on the sidewalk and you hold people. You don't let them walk on the sidewalk. And I'm never on my shoot will the movie be more important than life. If somebody needs to walk down the sidewalk, you let them interrupt our shot, and we'll do another take. It's fine. Let the people live.
Yes. God, it's so refreshing. I'm fascinated by the idea of can it survive? Can you have both? I can't wait to talk to you about this next film. You spend a little bit more money on it and say could this spontaneity and liberated attitude survive?
Yeah, I hope so. I feel making these 5 movies with this process, I feel I've come away with a lot of wisdom, a lot of truths that I personally feel important, that I don't forget them. And one thing that has already been very cool, because I'm not anti-script. I'm actually like anti not make movie. And I've like written scripts and then like those don't ever become movies. And so I like never again do I want to write a thing that isn't a movie because the script isn't the movie. So that's why I like wait till the night before to actually write it because I'm like, we're definitely gonna shoot. But what I did was I used that same 2-week process to write the script. So we wrote a script 3 scenes a day in order for 2 weeks, fully for fun. And the experience was really positive, and now there is a script.
I want you to start a collective, like a Dogma style collective, where directors are challenged to use this exact process. And directors like Christopher Nolan, like people who are used to the opposite process.
Do you want to be first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, great. It's so scary because I think that there's actually, what you're doing is so dangerous and disruptive in the greatest way because it demystifies it. It actually takes away this excuse that people use not to make movies. We're like, well, it's going to take years, money, and that's just stalling most of the time. So you're daring people to actually make things. And it's so valuable. I'm so grateful. So amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you everyone for joining us.